guys, welcome to this episode of the Trainer Feed. I'm Jacques Delagere, and today we're excited to have our guest on, Ramey Price. Ramey, what's up? How you doing this afternoon?
Hey, doing well. How are you guys?
Hey, what's up?
Good.
Doing well.
Nice to meet you all.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
So I know we spoke briefly, and these are the other gentlemen that I have the pleasure of doing the podcast with. One of us is more about making jokes. David, we're all pretty intellectual, and we love having great conversations. And for our listeners who may or may not know, me and Ramey have been following each other for, I want to say, over a year, since before the pandemic. And I know that not collectively, we both did projects with, say, Oliver's Apparel, and both saw that we were doing similar kind of works in the pandemic, which is sort of cool. But let's hear about how you got into the industry, how you started off, and you're currently a group fitness manager in one of the Dallas Equinox locations, correct?
Yes, yeah. So currently living in Dallas, and we've got 3 locations here. So Highland Park is the location that I'm at, and been working there for about 4 years now. I was an instructor for about 8 months, and then was promoted up to management for group fitness. And yeah, been loving it ever since.
That's a quick route, right? 8 months into a managerial position.
Yeah. So, I've been teaching for about 12 years. So, really started fitness in Oklahoma City, moved from Oklahoma City to Dallas about 4 years ago. And, that was my first big jump into the fitness industry. I think, you hear the story. I was working the corporate world and was trying to fill my void, and wanted to make the leap. And yeah, so it was definitely a fast turnaround for sure, but definitely one that I wanted to tackle.
And then you're saying being from Oklahoma City and going to Dallas. So I see more and more about the fitness scene booming in the Texas area. And I know these guys make me laugh about, I mentioned Primal Soldier a lot, and I see some of the guys in Austin and the On It Academy. But I also am still learning about the fitness industry in Texas, and I wanted to go during COVID, but obviously 2020 didn't happen. But for those who may not know why the industry is popping in Texas, tell us some of the reasons and some of the patterns you're seeing.
I think we have such great talent here, and I think it's a very small community. I think when I first moved here, I had this image in my mind that Dallas was so much bigger than Oklahoma City. So I moved into this huge city. And when I get here and I start meeting everybody, I'm like, oh, that person knows this person knows that person. So it's very connected. And I think that there's just this growing industry with health and fitness. So there's a lot of boutique studios that have been popping up a lot more, with Rise Nation or just different other local boutique fitness studios that have just been popping up. So it's been exciting to see. It's been exciting to watch the trends continue to grow, even during pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, and just the community staying strong together, supporting each other, and still, wanting to grow.
And does weather have because your winters, I know there was some bad weather during this winter, but is it this might sound trivial for those who do live in Texas or know the state very well, but could you do outdoor space workouts almost year round for the most part?
For outdoors? Yeah, I would say for most of the year, so it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot here. It gets pretty humid. It doesn't snow like it does in New York. So to me, when I'm cold, y'all are probably like, shut up, because it's 60 something here, and I'm like, damn, I got to put on a sweater.
That's like what it is today. Yeah, 60s here.
Yeah, so that's not okay for me, but that may be warm for you guys. But yeah, so Texas, I feel like October, it starts to kind of cool down. It's weird, but for me, I always feel like Halloween week, that's when it gets cold. And it stays like that until February, and then it's just extremely bipolar. It's cold and then hot the next day. It could be 80 and the next day it's snowing. That whole the last snowpocalypse that we had, it was so random. Like we were in the 70s, 80s. I was outside in a tank top, and then they were like snow. And
Like
I'm
the
like,
next
you
week.
know, Dallas, I don't really know. But then it iced. And it was just like, we don't have the infrastructure like you guys. You know, you're ready
cope with
for
it.
trucks. You got salt. You know, we
Mm.
just didn't have it. So, you know, it's pretty random if we
You
ever
guys
have
lose
any
power?
bad weather like that. Do what?
Did you guys lose power?
You know, I luckily didn't, but a lot of people did. A
Yeah.
lot of people did, and it was I was very fortunate in my little area where we had water, we had power, we had heat.
Nice.
But I mean, I had friends that lost power, they lost all their food, fire alarms were going off all the time, people were burning furniture to keep their families warm. Like
Wow.
it was a
Yeah,
big
no,
deal, you know.
I was reading an article about that stuff and how scary it was for a lot of people, especially when they're trying to keep warm using the methods that are probably not the safest. But,
not the safest, but I mean, I think
you have to
when
do
it
it.
comes to survival, yeah. So I mean, going back, I mean, I think we have one truck for ice, and you know, I just don't think that we were prepared. And I'm not like well versed in our electrical grid, but as you guys probably know now, it's not the best. So
Yep.
you know, as everything else in this year, I think we're learning what could be changed and improved, and hopefully we see better growth in that, so that does not happen again.
That's rough. I did notice as well. Maybe I didn't notice this sooner, but did you recently pick up rollerblading? Is that something you've done before and you're picking back up?
You know, the last time I rollerbladed, I think I was like 7. So
Wow.
I like, all of my friends are like, buy rollerblades, buy rollerblades. My boyfriend was like, you need to get some rollerblades. And I was like, you know what? Let me just do it. And so went over to Academy, and it's getting so nice outside. And I bought a bike, and I bought it in January. And it's a nicer bike, you know, because I wanted to spend some money on it because I wanted some good quality. And they were like, that's great, you know, it'll be here sometime between May or July.
Wow.
And I bought it in January, and I was like, well, dang, what am I gonna do
for 4 months?
Yeah, you know. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll pick up some other stuff just to keep me active and engaged. So yeah, so I bought some rollerblades and been trying to practice my turns and my stops and
your rollovers. No, crossovers even, not rollovers.
I don't even know. Yeah, I'm trying to like figure it out, you know, the steps and how to turn my skates. So I'm pretty good at rolling myself into the grass.
Wait, what do you mean roll yourself into the grass? Like when you have to stop moving, you mean? Like just roll into...
Yeah, when it's more of like an emergency situation and there are people in front of me. And I'm like, all right, I need to make a decision. Do I keep going? Do I scream on your left, or do I just go to the grass?
And SOS, and just like
the grass is.
That's perfect, right? It's a little safer, right? It's just like stop you at a gradual pace.
Yeah, you know, it's not like I'm falling, so I'm like easing into it. Sometimes I reach for a stick or a pole, and you know, make it look cool, but really in my mind, I'm like, oh man.
It's funny because I had played a little bit of hockey at college, and stopping on skates, although seems harder at first, once you know how to do it, it actually feels easier and safer. Then people tell me, oh, you can do the same on rollerblades, where you stop, put all your momentum forward. But I've always just dragged my back foot or swerve to kind of take out momentum out of my stride. But it's almost harder on rollerblades, I think.
I've never rollerbladed. I'll fucking break everything.
Yeah, nor have I.
I ice skated twice in my life. The first time was the most embarrassing part ever. I fell, and like right next to the door where that opens for the Zamboni to walk in, or to drive in or slide in, and then I couldn't get back up. So everybody was like, "Everyone, get out!" The Zamboni's coming to like do whatever it needs to do, and I'm on the floor.
David's about
and
to die.
everyone is just dipping. They're like, all right, see ya. I'm the only one left in the whole rink. And then they had to stop the Zamboni and the people had to come in and like pick me up. It was so embarrassing. I'm like, I'm never.
I mean, it's savage they just fucking left you there as well. I mean, I thought they'd be like, okay, hold on, this guy's about to die. Like, what movie is that? Oh, it's Deadpool, right? When he gets run over by the Zamboni.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it was
right.
I'm like, at least film me, you know.
Oh my god.
Get some proof of that. That's funny.
I wanted to jump in just really quick since we're on the topic of rollerblading and being active. I saw some of your YouTube videos and, you know, I saw your IG and I wanted to know, like, how did you get so ripped, right? Like your abs are just insane for like your frame. It just looks like you took a bodybuilder's abs and just like copy and pasted it. So what's up with that?
It's all Photoshop. Okay. It's Photoshop.
Oh.
Man, I don't know. I've always been really lean. My mom is like ex-bodybuilder back in her day, so I feel like I was just very fortunate to get her lean body. But I mean, diet, nutrition, all the things that, you know, we love to talk about and preach about. But yeah, so just sticking with that, and yeah, that's it.
Cool, because we've had some people on before and we've spoken a little bit about their physique. I'm sure some people might be listening to this like, oh my God, yes, his body is insane. How do I get that? Just so people have some perspective, January through December, how lean are you around then? And I obviously you spoke about like your genetic predisposition to being ripped. But just so people can say, all right, this is reasonable for me to only be in this sort of like body fat percentage for this amount of time throughout the year. Like, can you give people an idea as to when you see those photos, when are they taken, and like, is that maintainable, sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's body is different. You know, I'm not a nutrition expert, so I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression. But for me, I maintain what I can maintain in my life. And I sustain what I can sustain in my life. And that may not be the next person beside me's idea. So for me, I focus a lot on, I think, the micro things that a lot of people don't think about that to me are very macro. So my sleep, constantly thinking about, you know, my stress and how to manage that, my lifestyle, my dieting, because if I can't manage that, then my diet just gets everywhere, right? You know, if you can't plan for your food, then you crash and you're like, what's the fastest thing that I can eat real fast? And it may not be the best thing. So for me, it's just like, I tackle that area of my life and hopefully it'll start to shine through in those other areas like my physique. I'm, you know, just focusing on my happiness and not comparing myself to other people. I think that's super big on Instagram when people are scrolling and they see something and they're like, well, I want to look like that. But your body may not be able to look like that because that's just your physique and that's okay. So I think it's taken the idea of an image out of our minds and getting back more into just like introspection. Like, how is it that you're feeling and where can you go from there? I think for me, I was always skinny. I have always been just very skinny. It's hard for me to build. And so my issue used to be, you know, how is it that I can get bigger? What is it that I need to do to get bigger? So I would just consume and I would consume all day and it made me angry. I was like, I gotta eat again, you know, and people are like, that's a good issue to have. But to me, it was like, it was a very different battle that I was battling, but it became more mental than anything. I was weighing myself constantly to make sure that I was gaining the weight. I was making sure that I was like tracking all my food to make sure that I was like eating 45, whatever, 1,000 calories a day. And then it became to a point where I had to just ask myself, like, am I happy? Do I feel good in my body, in my brain, in my mind, everything? How are my relationships? And that's when it really just pivoted for me. So when I talk to people about what is it that you want to look like, I'm like, well, how is it that you want to feel?
Yeah. No, I love that you touched on being happy and finding that happiness. and happiness in your relationships, because you can kind of go down the rabbit hole and there's like no end in sight. So for people who are thinking about that and just like have a moment, just look at yourself, look at your life, look at what's around you, and just find happiness in that. And then also, to your point, you might not ever look like that, and that's okay, right? We need to understand that this comparison, these body image things are, not good to have, and they're not sustainable mentally, and physically, obviously not as well, because it just doesn't make sense. You can't take, monster truck tires and put it on a Ferrari. It doesn't necessarily add up like that. But I was scrolling through that Instagram and the YouTube feed. And so one of the other things I saw was your workout videos. They're intense. I love the fact that you put them up there. It takes a lot of confidence to put them up there. I know that when I can speak for myself, I don't want to speak for Jacques or David, but when I'm kind of like in the gauntlet and I'm working out, I make faces, there's grunts, there's sounds. Group fitness instructors have always been kind of like unicorns to me, because you're able to drip in sweat and then also talk and be motivational at the same time. Can you tell me a little bit about like, how did you build up the confidence to put those videos up and out there? And then do you have any kind of like suggestions for people who are in this space right now and they're trying to work out on YouTube, work out on IG Live, and they're trying to promote themselves a little bit more? Any feedback or any sort of tips?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, thank you, first of all. I think it really just took a lot of years of just being more comfortable with myself. Like I said, my mom was a bodybuilder, and my first daycare was literally the back of a gym studio while my mom is teaching steps. So it's like I've been in the industry and the environment, so I know what it looks like. And so when I first started, I, was really getting into dance in like high school, like show choir and musicals and all of that. And, I had a lot of friends in the fitness industry, and they were like, go for Zumba. And I was like, well, I can do that. Like, that's easy. I'm already dancing, whatever. And, so that was natural for me, right? It was natural for me. And with my acting background, it was natural for me to want to get on the stage. But I think what really flipped for me was getting more into HIIT training and weight training. Like, that was very new. And again, like, I was always the skinny kid. And so for me, like, living in Oklahoma City in a very red state, being gay in a gym that's very bodybuilder centered focused, literally walking by and having guys be like, oh, there's the gay kid who teaches dance class. It was like, oh man, it was kind of defeating. So I think I started trying to make this script in my mind on like who to be rather than like what I wanted to be, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I started to define what masculinity was and define, what it is that I needed to look like in order to not be like called out like that. And I think that was like the dark time that I was speaking about earlier, when I started focusing on like, I need to lift more, I need to look different, I need to be this person because that's how others see me. And I wanted to be something better and bigger than something that was like negative put on me. So it just took a lot of years, really. So, I mean, once I was able to like strip down away from that viewpoint and just start to be happier with myself, love myself a lot more, I was able to just be more me. And when I was more me, people loved me for who I was. So I stopped caring. And maybe that was age. I don't know. Going on 32, it's like I'm starting to care less and less about what others really think about me, and just, this is who I am, love me or leave me is kind of my motto. So, I mean, getting into your question, I guess, like, just put yourself out there. It's there. You're not going to be loved by everyone, and that's absolutely okay. And there is space for you in this world, and you will make a connection with at least one person. And just go out there and just try it. See what works, see what doesn't work, ask for feedback, and just do it.
What's the jumping on that real quick? I can't think of the quote with the phrase in my on my mind right now. But when if you have haters, or if you're not pissing people off, there's something you're doing something right. You ever heard that expression or that quote?
I don't know, but I like that.
Yeah, no, I heard that.
I gotta find it. I think
it's like if you don't have haters, then you're doing it wrong, or something like that.
or if you have haters and they're pissing people off, there's something you're doing right because they're either of envious. I'll try and find them before the end of the episode, but I think, and you mentioned age, accepting not who you are, but it's so much harder when, as you mentioned, an environment that has stereotypically been a certain way for so many generations, and then when you try and do something different, it's either threatening or uncomfortable for some people, and then that's just they're respond in unfortunately very different ways. And if you're able to just again make yourself, like I said, you talked about making yourself happy and not making other people happy, and then knowing your own version. But as you said as well about, I think sometimes we talk with clients, and I'm sure it's the same with members, when they get fixated on that number on the scale, and then when you really define or understand what actually makes you happy, right? You could be a little bit heavier on that scale and be happier than you ever were 10 pounds lighter. That's sometimes I know I still have those conversations that can be harder to break that mold, but I think it's so important you touched on that, just finding yourself, finding the connection with at least that one person in the world, and being okay with it, in the sense that you're going to have people that say shit, throw shade. I'll find that before the episode, like these guys carry on. But I like the fact you touched that on, because it's complete transparency, right?
Yeah.
And then also the correlation. I'm sure there's therapists that can have some spreadsheet or something to have the connections, but happiness and confidence seem to have some sort of trajectory together, or upward trajectory together. So first of all, that's an unbelievable story. That's a great kind of thing to think about. Everybody's fighting their own battles as well. I think not only as we get older do we care less about what others think of us, but we also understand that everybody's fighting something and they're just trying to work through it together. Hopefully, yeah. At least that's my perspective. And, hopefully when I become like 40 years from now, I'm not like that bitter old man that just hates everything. But I did want to also pivot towards or piggyback off of what we were speaking about in terms of having some professional feedback and some professional guidance. How has group fitness changed in the past year? And do you have any advice for anyone starting out as a group fitness instructor in 2021?
2021, yeah, things have drastically changed. I think we've all seen that. So, I mean, with quarantine happening, I think everybody really pivoted online. Everything went online because that's just how we were operating. So, I mean, education, I always say that start with some education, start with, a certification, take a course, a class, whatever it may be. Find professionals in the industry that are doing it and ask questions. What's the reality of what it is that you're doing right now? So I have people that reach out to me on, social media or just in person, and they say, I want to get started with group fitness. Like, when can I start? And I'm like, well, what have you done? do you take group fitness? Like, do you know what it means? Because, I think some people see it as like, oh, it's like this fun thing that people do on the side, and it's cute, and you sweat and you play awesome music, and then you're done. But there's so much more to it. And I think I think it takes, like I said, just getting education, getting some experience, taking a wide range of classes and understand where it is that you want to go. I also have a lot of people come to me and they're like, I love everything. I want to do yoga, cycle, Pilates. And I'm like, that's amazing. But, what is it that you can really dive into and learn to be not an expert on, but, what can you really speak to strongly before you start to tackle other lanes and really build up your portfolio, instead of just diving everywhere into it and just knowing just a little bit about a lot of things.
That's really great advice. I mean, I think when we all got into personal training, everybody kind of had their niche, right? Some dude was the floor person who was like doing exercise, a whole bunch of correctives on the floor for like the hour. And then somebody else was like the lifting expert. Somebody else was powerlifting. You got bodybuilding. And, you know, you just come in there and you're just like, well, I like all of these things. And then trying to take that energy. And it's not saying don't use that energy. It's saying more direct it.
Right.
Direct
Yeah.
that energy.
Direct the energy into a focus. I mean, I had, you know, obviously work at a gym where we've got personal trainers and group fitness instructors. And I love listening to my trainers talk. And I have a few that are athletes. They're, you know, they're ex-basketball players or, you know, whatever it may be. And they've been with us for a few years and now they're getting into Pilates certifications, because they've learned that there needs to be some sort of like more core work emphasis in what they're doing. So they've dived in, they've started to build their clients, they started to develop what it is that they're really special at. And now they're just adding in more sprinkles, I guess, to the cake. they're adding more flavor.
No, I love it. Even for myself, I'm trying to take as many classes as possible to continue to kind of like perfect the craft, because eventually like you might run into a wall where you either run out of, it's hard to say run out of exercises, or like you run out of creativity, or the creativity gets stopped. And I love to take new classes and try out different things. So that way I'm able to, even if it's the same exercise, I can articulate or cue it differently. So that way it translates more to different people coming from different backgrounds.
Totally.
Hey, I'm wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Angel mentioned, because he talked about group fitness and PT, and then you also talked about your personal trainers over there at your club and group fitness instructors. What do you think is, well, first of all, there's always been this sort of like shift or the separation between group fitness and PT, at least from what I've seen at my club.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen, you know, all different types of ideas and modalities of training. What do you think is one way that you can maybe lessen the gap between, oh, I'm a group fitness instructor, you're a PT, we're going to stay in our lanes and not, you know, crisscross much because you don't want to step on anyone's toes?
Well, I hate staying in my lane. so maybe that helps me. Mm-hmm. But I love the blends of PT and group fitness. I started off with, yes, teaching Zumba. I got into HIIT training. I did my own boot camps in Oklahoma City, you know, got my personal training certification through NASM. I was a personal trainer, a group fitness instructor. So I've seen both worlds and I know how important both of them are individually and also together. The way that I would lead my group fitness clients was very different than how I would lead my personal training clients. And even now, I love my club because we work so well together. We are a very together club. Every department has some hands in it in many different ways. So, you know, speaking more to personal training and group fitness, I love when we get our new trainers because I get to talk about all of our amazing classes and why my schedule is the best out of the entire company. And then, you know, just ways that we can work together. You may be working with a client that is really struggling with balance, you know, whatever it may be, or just core work. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, I've got classes that I can help you find and navigate for your member to work on that stability. Or, you know, maybe it's just strength training or maybe supplementation of cardio. There's always a way that we can work together to blend in what it is that you're working on and what it is that I have to offer at my club. There's a way that we can work together.
Yeah, that's great. No, a lot of my clients that do take group fitness classes, they always tell me, David, I'm taking this. I struggle doing this. I'm like, all right, great. Let's work on this. And then you could kill it in the class, you know, however many times you take it a week.
Yeah.
How has the volume been at the Dallas clubs after reopening? I mean, when did Dallas reopen? Was it the same as us? We opened September 1st.
We opened, I don't know I can't remember the exact date. I want to say it was May 26th.
Oh,
so it's been almost a year.
Okay. Sorry, did group fitness open right away, or did it have to wait first?
We did. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we opened right away. So we had clubs, we had classes. Obviously very different,
Yeah.
very, very separated in spacing. So we were very social distancing. The standards that we implemented were absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, our number one priority was, yes, we wanted to open, but we wanted to make sure that our members felt safe and that we felt safe. So, I mean, yeah, it's been quite a journey coming back open, but group fitness has been amazing. It's been operating really well, and I've been happy to see it. I'm a very hands-on coach. I remember just how I am now versus like how I was before, which is very different. So, you know, we're very up and center in the studio spacing, and I used to go on into the gym floor, on the fitness floor in the studios, and just, you know, help someone feel their shoulders, you know, rolling back, and what does that flat back feel like. And now it's more, how can I creatively articulate my words to reach the person in the back corner and also be visible for them. So it's been interesting. So I mean, to also kind of like tie back in PT, what I love is that, like, I've got, pre-COVID, I had like 35 bodies in my room, right? I had 35 people moving 35 different ways, and a squat looks very different on 35 different bodies. And for me, it's like, no matter what type of format I'm doing, I may only get to touch on that move a few times. And so it's nice for me to have access to trainers in my facility, so I can say, hey, awesome job in your squat. I really see you perfecting that. You know, have you ever thought about this, or that? We've got amazing trainers here that can help you if it's a goal that you're looking for. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. You know, I think one of the things that I love about where I work is the more that you come as a member, the better mover you're going to be.
100%.
And I think that I'm very fortunate to work in a facility where people are smart. I think there's a lot of people that are just like, man, you know, how are you making it right now? But with us, I really trust our people. And I really feel that over time, if you're taking group fitness, if you're working personal training, you're going to learn to move better for the rest of your life, not just for today, but forever.
Nice. That's right. I mean, especially when everything went on with COVID and everybody moving into virtual training, I can only imagine how group fitness also took a toll, because you can't go up to somebody and manually pull their shoulders back or manually teach them how to do something. Because I'm a very hands-on person too. So sometimes if my client can't get something, I'll go to them and be like, all right, no, this is how you do it. And then now it's more like, shit, I got to know how to articulate in a different way.
And it's also, you know, being smart with your programming. You know, group fitness, you know, there's only so much that we can do in a space safely. And, you know, I think it's getting more comfortable about being the owner of your space and the owner of your room. And I'm very comfortable saying, stop, you know, we're not doing great. It's my ownership. Let me back it up a little bit. You know, so if it's like a kettlebell swing and I'm like, this is not looking amazing, let's go ahead and just really work on squeezing shoulder blades back. There's $100 bill. You want that money, honey? Squeeze it back. Hinge at the hips, like just really breaking it down. And so, I mean, yeah, it's definitely been more of a challenge being up front, but it's definitely, I think, helped myself, and I would say my instructors, learn to articulate and verbalize cues and make them more succinct to where it's a lot more understood by, you know, the masses.
And that's a harder job to do, coming from a group fitness instructor's perspective, because you got the music blasting, you got bodies around you, you got people almost not necessarily like competing with each other, but they're just like working together. So elevates the level of intensity almost just by the environment alone. Versus personal training where it's like one-on-one, and if somebody's kettlebell swings aren't looking amazing, we can pull them over to a dark corner of the room and say, okay, this is what's going on and we need to break this
what
down.
You're fucking doing wrong. This is
or it's like easy to swap out the weight too, right? You can just grab a dowel, grab a resistance band, it's right there, and then you can direct that person in the direction that they need to be in. But in group fitness, it seems like it's much harder to control. So talking about owning your space seems like a really good tip.
But I think it also feels good when you are able to have that much control of your class. Be like, no, this is what I want. Like, this is how I want the class to be. This is how we need to fix it. Because I remember I was teaching, like, I think the most I've ever taught with their trainers. I was doing a kettlebell class, and it was like 7 new rampers that came into the thing. I was teaching them how to do something, and it was just like, one arm was over here, the other arm was here. I'm like, guys, stop. And then afterwards, everybody kind of like looks at you. They're like, oh shit, we did something wrong, And because at the end of the day, you don't want them to hurt themselves, especially if you want to get them to keep coming back.
Right, and it's all about delivery. You know, it's not like you suck. That's not the goal. I think we're all very much in the industry of hospitality service, providing, education. And so, definitely have had to have those moments where it's like, okay, music's coming down. There's no timing. There's no reps right now. I really just want to focus on the form. And then maybe I just program that for like the next month and say, we'll just really break whatever the movement is down step by step by step and build it up. And then we'll just see where it goes from there.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up about creating an effective and safe program, because it brings me to one of my last questions is, how does a group fitness instructor, how does a new instructor come into class or right before class create a safe and effective program for dozens of people when everybody has a different experience and training, different movement patterns, and medical history, basically?
Yeah. I mean, I think you definitely need to scan the room first because, when you're in group fitness settings, again, you're working with so many different bodies. So just being able to have that conversation in the beginning, I'm always like, hey, 5 minutes before class, off mic, if you want to have a conversation about injuries, let me know. During class, I'm like, I always call it using your coaching eye. You cue the move, you demo the move, you articulate the muscles and alignments and how you're wanting it to look. And then you take a step back and you just observe. Wow. How is everybody doing? Is it, safe? Is it effective for them? Are they overdoing it? And you have to be willing to be confident to say maybe their name right now, because you can't go up to them and say, hey, let's stop and let's back up a little bit because I want you to try this a different way. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think it's always about how you say it. You could be rude or you could be very clear and just kind with your delivery, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, again, we're moving efficiently and effectively and safe in our space.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're all clients to some extent, right? I mean, it's also been shown that talking down at somebody when it comes to teaching them something really isn't going to make a difference, because they're just going to close up and not be comfortable with you.
Yeah. So I've definitely told my new instructors, I'm like, hey, if you get in there and, you want to try a fun move, I call it fun moves, because my members are always like, oh, what does that mean? I'm like, we're going to do something fun today. They're like, oh no. So I'm like, with my new instructors, if we're going to try some fun moves, maybe try 1 or 2. They come, if you have to think so much when you only have so much time and you're spending the majority of your time thinking about what's next or what's to come or all of these steps, it's overwhelming. So maybe it's 1 or 2 things that you're working on, and also take responsibility of, if you're coaching that experience and it's not going to plan, feel comfortable just side tabling that and moving on and maybe plugging in a different move.
Yep.
You've got to be the master of your room. And I think being a professional means coming in prepared. It's mentally envisioning what it is that you have, how it is that you want it to go, and if it doesn't go your way, how can you be adaptable for maybe a plan B or C?
Yeah, you got to think on the fly.
And also, go on, Angel.
No, I was just going to say, just being a professional and knowing progressions, regressions, and lateralizations to almost anything that you put up there has to be part of it too. Because you can't just put something up there and just not know where to go from there if it all goes down south.
Totally. Yeah. So that's kind of like some exercises that I go through with my new instructors. I'm like, hey, what I want you to do is tackle this style of format and maybe give them a timing protocol and say, I want you to just, give me that experience. What does that look like? What are your exercises? Then, we talk about the exercises and then we just kind of go through one by one. And I'm like, hey, what if someone can't do this move? What do you have them do? I think that there's always going to be that one person, and I joke with my class, I'm like, there's always that one person where like, after I say, do you have any injuries? And no one says it halfway through class, they're like, actually, my shoulder hurts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I asked you that, girl, before class. Why didn't you talk to me?
Yeah, no, I love it, especially when you do the equal fit or
Yes.
assessing, and then later on when you're having to do a squat, be like, oh, by the way, I have double knee replacement surgery.
Yeah.
I had to like
2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I
I'm like,
actually have
what are you talking about?
titanium knees.
Like, I don't have a clavicle. I don't have a clavicle anymore. Just so
It's
you
just
know,
a hole.
like
Yeah.
something like that,
But so it's just being prepared. It's, like you said, sometimes it is just really thinking on the fly and being comfortable with that, being confident in that and be like, okay, cool. You can't do that. Awesome. Let's do this instead. You'll still get the same muscles. It'll be a little kinder on the body. I always say in my class, because I feel like, I think it was you, David, that touched on it. You've got group fitness, it's hyped up, the music is going, the instructor's like, come on, and you want to just go for it. But sometimes going for it all the time isn't always the safest.
Mm-hmm.
And so my biggest thing that I tell people is modifications do not make you weak. They make you a smarter athlete. And being comfortable enough with yourself and your body today to make that modification so you can be a better mover.
I think that's huge. I think I'm glad you touched on that because I've had a few injuries myself. And when I've gone to classes, even if I misheard, I didn't hear the instructor ask about injuries, I always just went to them and said, look, just a heads up, I've had 2, at that point it was 2, but now it's 3 knee surgeries. So there's going to be things I want to try and avoid. So box jumping, for example, I never want to do that. Give me the alternative. And as you just said, it's not a weakness. It's being smart. It's knowing that you're still going to get an intense workout. You're just going to modify that pattern. You're still doing a certain amount of time under tension. It's still either loaded. It's still elevating your heart rate. And that's just my biggest fear with some of the group, or you said boutique gyms, where clients or members who go are, I know they're already in a vulnerable scenario. Maybe it's their first time. The last thing they want to do, some people, is go to somewhere they haven't been or they're not familiar with and say, oh, I can't do this. There's a fear of it being shamed. And because 2 people who are regular every week have no injuries and crush it and just absolute beasts in the group fitness or in the gym, period. And that can be daunting and make them feel like they don't want to say anything. And even when I went to some of the CrossFit classes, I'd gone to some workouts and then people say later, oh yeah, I actually hurt my shoulder. And we were doing toaster bar, which is puts your shoulder in a real flexion extension in a pretty aggressive pace, I would say. Not a bad exercise, but it's pretty aggressive like exercise. And you want members to feel safe, not feel ashamed. I hope that still persists. I haven't taken a group fitness class in a while, but that's something that I personally, being someone injured as well, had, and I feel that it was always well received. It was, I'm glad you came and told me the modifications will be this. It's just, all right, you told me at the beginning, like you said, not halfway through. When you're halfway through an exercise, and you want the person to tell you and be honest. And there's no, like you said, there's no shame, and it's not being weak. It's just that pattern doesn't go well for your body, or that pattern is just not worth you going through, in the sense of you've had knee surgery. I'm not going to make you do 20 jumps. Like there's more there's more safer methods or patterns to get your heart rate elevated than just going to deep knee flexion, or
let's not have knee surgery 4.
Let's not go back into the OR, right?
Let's keep it at 3.
Let's keep it at 3. Yes. So I'm glad you touched on that. And something I want to ask you finally before we wrap up, I want to say you were starting some journaling. And the reason why I bring it up is because in the beginning you spoke about, you didn't specifically say it, but somewhat mental health and, being happier with who you are and maybe in an environment that wasn't too welcome in the beginning. So you were journaling, right? Can you talk to us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I am. I've journaled before, and I always just call it like word vomiting. So I would just like basically have an open journal with no specific anything, and would just, write down anything that I was feeling, whether it be good, bad, goals, whatever. But over the past year, I want to say I've just been trying to find a journal that's had a little bit more like exercises on a focus point on how to just help shape my thinking, I guess, to be a little bit different. So, to think about my relationships with my friends and families, to think about, what are my goals, or what does stress me out, and how do I react and respond to it, and what are some things to be grateful for, whatever it may be. So, I touched on, like probably 5 journals, and they were all, I don't know, some of them were kind of cheesy, and some of them were just like so much work where like I got more anxiety doing the freaking journal than I started with. And I'm like, shit, I feel like this is homework again. This shouldn't feel so much. So I found one, and it's actually called the Mind Journal. And the idea and the concept is, it's very much directed towards men. It's very much directed towards, there's 2 different kinds. So there's a journal and the jotter, basically. So the journal has like 30 exercises that, just ask you some questions to think about. And then I think it's like 60 plus pages of just open journal. And there's a fast check-in. There's always sections to fill out, what are your intentions for the day and what to be grateful for. And then what's your happy hour? And I love the way that they outline it, because it really just jumpstarts my day to be so much more productive, to when I get in a roadblock, I think, does this serve my intention that I want for the day? Does this bring me, does this add any value to my life?
Right.
And, it just made me think a little bit differently. So I really, really, really enjoy this journal and enjoy journaling and what it's done for me, because it just is another piece to my routine that makes me feel successful in my day. I'm pretty stuck on my routines.
That's good. I am the same. And it upsets me when people screw with it. So I'm the same.
I'm like downstairs in my journal, and then, my boyfriend comes around and he's like, okay, so this is my day, and and I'm like, babe, I just need 5 minutes of it's like, this is like my time.
Yeah, that's important though. Even when you live with them, right? It's so important to have that, I don't know if separation is a word, but like individual time.
Yeah.
You gotta set the boundaries for yourself. That's the big thing. A lot of people don't like to set boundaries.
Always. And what works for you, and what doesn't work for you. What doesn't work for you. So for me, I know that I need sleep. I know that sleep has so much value to my mental health, to the way that I move, the way I am as a leader of my club and the leader of my room and space. So, I always think the way I end my day is going to be how successful my next day is going to be. I want to get to bed on time. I want to make sure I don't go to bed with like any residual, whatever, negative feelings, anything. I let go to get into a better sleep quality. So I wake up feeling rested, re-energize myself with my journal, just my whole morning routine. And then I just kick ass in my day.
and you own it. That's good.
Yeah,
I'm
own
glad
it.
you spoke about it, because it's so funny, because I've always known sleep to be the best anti-inflammatory, the best recovery tool, and I'm seeing more about it. Or anyone that comes at you and says, I'm sure you get members as well say, "Oh, what's the best shake? What's the best sleep?" Everyone can do it, and
It's free.
It's free. You don't have to go research online for the supplement or this recovery.
Yes.
It's free, like you said, but it's unbelievably important for all three aspects of movement, nutrition, and regeneration in itself, which you just talked about. So I'm glad you touched on that too. But yeah, I'm so glad you jumped on with us. I'm positive we'd love to have you on in like a year, 6 months, an hour, just when everything has grown down there as well. But I'm so glad we got to learn more from you and more about you and your experience. I've been an absolute blast having you on, Ramey. Seriously.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys.
Wait, before you head out, Instagram, YouTube, plug it in. Any opportunities for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, Instagram, it's basically me, my dog.
That's a good thing, though.
All the craziness in my life. So it's Ramey Price _. That's RAMEY Price, like the Price is Right. _ Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ramey.
Thank you so
much.
Talk to you soon, Ramey. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. That was a great conversation. He's funny, man. He's such a character.
Cool. I'm happy. I learned so much.
Yeah.
I like a couple of things. There are like a couple of takeaways. Even the language, I think, was very important. And I'm going to take some of that into like some of my training sessions and group fitness, virtual classes and things like that, because it's important. Language is very important. Like, I like how he said movements that are kinder on your body, as opposed to like a progression, regression, and even using that verbiage sometimes can be a little bit defeating for people. So saying something kinder on your body, that's got to be better received than a regression, because even if you're not familiar with moving or training, or if you're someone that's quite novice to it, hearing that is always an inviting thing, I think, to hear, right? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's important. I feel like he brought that up, the journaling for guys, basically, like the mind journal. Was that? Yeah, that's important.
I need to start doing that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the biggest journalist. I can't write for shit. And
I don't know
it's not about writing, but it just doesn't. I'll do it one day, and then I'll forget the next day, and then I just don't even do it anymore.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like building those habits.
Yeah.
Like he said, just having those habits and just setting it out. I need to do more of that as well. So I think I'm going to go online and purchase that and just, check it out.
Yeah, it's worth doing. I need to start. I've started doing it at some point. I need to. It helps in my mental health as well. So, but yeah, I'm glad you touched on that as well.
We should do it for the month of May. I mean, obviously May starts tomorrow, but maybe we'll just do it for, a week or something like that, 2 weeks, and we'll check in.
Let's do it. Yeah. I'm down.
Cool. All right. Let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening to the Trainer Feed. We'll catch you in the next one.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.